Melbourne, Australia, home of great food, better coffee and household celebrity, Albert Park. Go on, take a stroll, bring the dog, soak in the scenery, smell the roses. Or you could watch 20 turbocharged single-seater monsters tear up these streets for 3 days straight. That's right folks, Formula 1 is back, and for those of you who need a little refresher, today we're going to be covering everything you need to know for the 2025 Australian Grand Prix. You're getting it all. The track, the history, the key moments, who's going to win, and who is Albert, and where has he parked his car? You thought that was bad? Just wait till you see turn 6. First things first, Albert Park. I'm not making any more Albert Park jokes. Albert Park is a semi-permanent street circuit. The track itself is 5.3 kilometers long and it runs for 58 laps. This track is extremely fast paced. It's one of the fastest races on the calendar. I mean, the engines run at full throttle for 65% of this race. When I say semi-permanent, what I mean is this track mostly uses public roads, so the track gets built every year. It takes about 2 months to put up and 6 weeks to put down. Building things like grandstands, pedestrian overpass, trackside fencing, all of that for 3 days of racing. Hats off to those soldiers, I could never do it. Albert Park is a pretty unique track due to these high-speed characteristics which are commonly associated with more dedicated racetracks. The track is pretty smooth because it was fully resurfaced before the contract started in 1996, which helps to make it one of the fastest races. And because it's a street circuit, you do have quite bumpy sections. The current contract for the Australian Grand Prix runs until 2037 and it has to be a season opener for at least 5 of these seasons. And I know what you guys are probably thinking by now. Is it smooth or is it bumpy? That doesn't make sense. So just to clear up any confusion, the answer to that one is yes. It can be smooth and bumpy at the same time. What I mean by this is the track surface itself is smooth, but it's still public roads. There's still going to be bumps. It's not going to be completely level. Turns 9 and 10 as well as turns 11 and 12 are where these bumps hit hardest. These are quite high speed corners, which means there's more downforce on the car, which means these bumps are just felt a little bit more intensely. So compared to places like Baku and Monaco, it's a smooth street circuit. But it's still a street circuit. It's not going to be as smooth as places that are dedicated race circuits. So where are our key overtaking spots? Overtaking's a little bit of a tricky one here, not gonna lie, but let's go through our best possible options. So turn 1 is the first spot we want to look at. It's one of 4 DRS zones and there's usually some big lap 1 drama on this one. Turn 3 is a heavy braking zone, which makes it good for overtakes. Got the run into the turn 9 and 10 chicane, especially with a DRS boost. This does make it a good option, as well as turn 11 and 12, which is another high-speed chicane. Gets a bit brutal if you misjudge this one. So the reason why I say the overtakes are a little bit of a tricky one here is because unless a driver makes a big mistake, genuine overtaking spots are just pretty hard to come by. Now they did do a bit of a revamp in 2022 to try and overcome this, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So what does the strategy at Albert Park look like? When things go right, which they often don't, this race is a one-stop strategy. Tyre wear here isn't usually too bad, so they'll be running medium to hards. Melbourne is also not completely unfamiliar with a safety car, or 2, or 3. So don't be too surprised by a lucky timed pit stop gamble. It's literally how Sebastian Vettel won in 2018. Some teams literally have it in their strategy to wait for a safety car to come out instead of just gambling on an early pit stop. And if it's anything like it was in 2023, which had a record-breaking 3 red flags, 2 of them being in the last 3 laps of the race, then I don't know what to tell you. I literally have no clue. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Sue me, okay? Jesus, we don't all know everything. This track changes a lot over the course of the weekend. It starts off quite slippery because it's a public road, but grip improves over the course of the weekend as rubber gets laid down. A balanced setup is crucial at this race. Teams will usually be running a medium downforce setup, and cars with a strong nose will tend to do well so that they can chuck it into a high-speed corner. Melbourne is a really good wake-up call track. If a team gets their balance wrong, it exposes fundamental issues with the car's setup really early on in the season. Now that we've gone over a little bit of the dribble, let's get into the history because Melbourne's seen some crazy things, and to make things a little bit more straightforward, let's just go through the timeline. The deal to host Formula 1 in Melbourne was done in 1993, with the decision made to create a circuit that makes use of the public roads, even taking a little detour through the Lakeside Stadium car park. So that's where Just 3 years later in 1996, we had the first ever Melbourne Grand Prix, which you might know from Martin Brundle's insane crash at turn 3, where the car flipped, he landed, ran out, went to the spare car,
oh my God,
and just kept going. In 2002, Ralf Schumacher just launched himself off Rubens Barrichello, which created a huge 7-car pile-up. In 2009, we had Braun's Grand Prix fairy tale. It was their first season in the race, the first race, no one expected anything of them, and Jenson Button Jensen Button. Now we do try to avoid topics surrounding 2020 and 2021, however not on this channel. In 2020, Formula One arrived at the circuit to begin its season, but the race was cancelled due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The following year's race was initially postponed, then also called off. During this time is when the track underwent layout changes, widening corners as well as removing the chicane. These changes were made to increase overtaking opportunities. Time will tell. This decision was controversial at the time, but hey, it was COVID times. No one knew what they were doing. We were all just winging it. Don't be mad, guys. Unless you're this guy. In 2022, Charles Leclerc joined an elite crew of people who have earned a career Grand Slam. For those of you who might be unfamiliar, a Grand Slam in Formula One is someone who wins a Grand Prix from pole position, leads every lap and sets the fastest lap of the race. And just for fun, the most successful driver here is none other than Michael Schumacher with 4 wins. My most personal favourite iconic moment, Michael Schumacher breaking the record in 2004 with his first flying lap. F2004 will just always be my favourite car of all time. There's no competition. There will never be competition. How can you compete? How can you compete? No one's ever done it like that. No one. I mean the sound, what it looks like. Even if MBS brings those V10s back, no one will ever compare to the F2004. Don't even try. It's perfection. I'm not even a Ferrari fan, Jesus Christ. One website said that the most iconic moment at Albert Park was in 2002 on Mark Webber's debut, getting 5th place. What does it mean? What are the main storylines that we're going to see at the Australian Grand Prix? You've heard of the curse of Leclerc, now get ready for the curse of no Australian ever winning their home race. Like, ever. They almost got it with Mark Webber coming in 4th in 2012. Daniel Ricciardo got close in 2014 with a 2nd place podium, but he got disqualified like 2 hours after the race, so doesn't count. Melbourne fans will be backing Oscar Piastri heavily during this race. It's his home race, he's from Melbourne. I would love to see him get the win, which brings us into the second storyline. Just how strong are McLaren starting off their 2025 season? They've got that Constructors' Championship under their belt, and they're definitely the favourites going into 2025. Their car looked extremely strong during testing, and with a new season, there's no papaya rules. They're not going to be prioritising any drivers, and both Lando and Oscar are going to want to be proving that they are the driver to prioritise this season. Our third storyline is just going to be looking at the rest of the field. 2025 is a really hard season with no one knowing what to predict. So ultimately, Melbourne is going to be the gauge for the rest of the season. People will be using it as a key indicator for what to expect. Our fourth storyline this year will be to expect the unexpected. I've already touched on this. Safety cars are a very common addition to the Australian Grand Prix. And one of the reasons for this is because Melbourne is very unpredictable with its weather.
Wait. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I mean, the official F1 guide literally recommends bringing both sunblock and a rain jacket to the event. I mean, that's all you really need to know, isn't it? When we're making our predictions, it's always important to look at what cars historically tend to do well on these tracks. And Melbourne has often suited Ferrari. Albert Park isn't really a power-dominated track. It's more about finding that acceleration coming out of corners than having a raw top speed. Ferrari and Red Bull both have a really strong front nose in their car, which is important for chucking it into those corners. Mercedes have kind of been struggling with their rear instability, which makes them prone to locking up here. McLaren are fast, but they tend to be faster on the straights, which isn't really as important here. And because safety cars are common here, we just haven't really seen many fully representative races since they had that 2022 layout change. But from what we saw last year, overtaking still seems like it's a little bit of a struggle. So my personal predictions for this race, I'm going to be hoping a little bit and put Oscar in P1, Lando in P2, and I think Charles Leclerc is going to hit P3 with that Ferrari. If Oscar gets P1, that's going to put such an interesting twist onto the papaya rules. Lando's really going to have to work to prove himself. And I just think that McLaren are starting off the year with a really strong car, regardless of which cars tend to do well here. And with that, we have everything you need to know about the Australian Grand Prix. Make sure to drop your race predictions in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win this weekend? And before you ask, no! I still don't know who Albert is. I don't know why he's parked there, but knowing the FIA, they probably wouldn't safety car it anyway. Still not proud of that one.